Well, hello everyone. You have right here, I'm talking about right here with parents' promise right here. And a lot of times it sure seems that way that when we do talk about promises, by the way, it sure seems that way that, yeah, that what exactly does it mean? And a lot of times you always want to know too, do you use that word in a phrase, then compare it to how many times that you spelt it? Like everybody might say that, whenever you do talk about spelling words, talk about for promises, right? And talk about for maybe if it's one or two promises. But a lot of times it sure seems that way that, how many of us would maybe even agree that the word promise has been misused a couple of times. And, even if it starts with a capital P, or if it, starts and ends maybe with a Z or something like that, with a ZY or something like that. And so, like everybody might say that, yeah, if you hear the word promise, by the way, you can maybe include the Y and then the HO or something like that, and like 102 is toward it. Yeah, well, for sure, if you actually use the word in sentence right here, talk about for promise with the capital P right here, and maybe everybody would maybe say is toward, okay, yeah. Is that supposed to be an adjective or something like that, or any sorts of action verbs or anything like that? And a lot of times, every time you always think about that, you always want to know too that really, shouldn't a promise be one word, or why does it multiply maybe by five sentences and maybe 5 words and five antonyms or something like that? So every time you do think about that, and you always want to know too that it seems to be a lot more complicated, right? But still, that whenever you do think about that, and you're 102, that when we talk about a promise, though, and I mentioned right here, down here at the bottom right here, talk about for promises, right? And you're thinking this too, okay, yeah, what do promises pretty much mean right here? It's basically another way of saying this to where that you are able to keep your word whenever it comes to task, such as whenever it comes to an agenda in the ways from whenever you started and you are willing to do what you mentioned from earlier. So it sure seems that way that whenever you do mention about promise right here, that I was just thinking, yeah, all this right here was actually like an agenda. Like everybody might say that, do you think that it would be easier for you to be able to write down your words? I'm like, yeah, your agenda is toward it, yeah. The way you wrote that down was saying is toward it, okay, yeah, that just to be able to boost your mood, and maybe just to be able to help boost your ability toward if you're working on something. Let's just say if you're really are that anxious to know about, what happens next or something like that. And I know a lot of people would probably say that, just to be able to boost the mood. So, and a lot of times it's like, yeah, everybody might say that that's usually what happens, right? Is that whenever you do make a promise to somebody, a lot of times that you would use words like, it's already been started, but let's just say that, yeah, what happens next? So if you were to say that right there in the 102, that, how do you think that you should actually word that? And like everybody might say that, really, what happens next? And let's just say if there's maybe if there's a comma or something like that, or exclamation point right there or something like that. And so that's why it seems like that, every time you think about that, and you're 102, that how many of us would maybe even say that, the number of times that you've used that word, that you don't really think about all the details. You don't really think about, okay, yeah. Whenever you do make a promise to somebody, for sure, that are you really thinking about what happens next? Are you necessarily thinking about is that, just to keep them quiet or something like that, for a while or something like that, and or like everybody might say, it's just another way of how to, everybody might say it's just another way to get the person to settle down or something like that, or like, yeah, that. So it sure seems that way that, whenever you do hear the word promise right here, that's not the same thing as talking about a vacation, right? That's actually, it's another way of saying this to we're talking about for agenda. It's another way of stating this to word it, like I mentioned right here, talk about for a credit card right here. And I use a credit card as an example, by the way, just because of the fact that that whenever you do, yeah, you get approved a credit card, by the way, and you go on the shopping experience, right? And a lot of times it's like, you're not really, making any promises whenever you're using a credit card, other than the fact that, everybody might say, yeah, well, for sure, you got a lot of promises that you do have, for a credit card, but one of those is making the payment on time and all that, but still, that you keeping your receipts, but still, it's like each time you think about that word, I talk about for promise right here, that the thing about your parents though, and your parents will probably say that whenever you do talk about promises right here, that you now have a bit, that ability to where you can shop online, and maybe if you can go ahead, if you get approved a credit card, you now have that ability to where you can go to the store and buy what you like, and you have a little bit more credit on there where you can buy what you like, and then you'll use it however you like, and so like everybody might say, if that's really considered what you call the fun part about it, but the bad part, of course, is having to take care of whenever those bills come and everything, and so it's like that type of responsibility, right? And so each time you do think about that, and you're always want to know too that it's a lot harder. I'm like, yeah, like everybody might say that whenever you do talk about a promise, by the way, that it's another way of saying this toward it. You got to keep your word, and also anything. I'm like, yeah, so it sure seems that way that you're keeping track you keep track of my spending right here, and keep the receipts right here. So it sure seems that way that each time you do think about that, I was just thinking too that if in case if anybody's want to know too, that when we do talk about promises right here though, that do you think that maybe you would like to underline the word promises right here, and you may even want to know too that you start working a job, by the way, for sure, and people want to know too you go ahead, and if you make a promise about something for sure, that you go ahead and underline the first two words right here of the so-called saying right here. And everybody might say that really that one thing that you can do, like everybody might say, that whenever you talk about a promise though, we're talking about that the work that needs to be done whenever it comes to taking care of something, right? And so whenever you do think about that, and you're always thinking too, it's like an adjective. And so whenever you do think about that, and you always want to know too that see the details. And so each time you think about that, and you always want to know too that why would you want to make a promise? Maybe if you know that you can't do that, you don't have the ability to where you can meet the requirements, and maybe like everybody might say that especially if you don't know what you're doing and all, but still that the details, see details right here. So while you're going to be working on something for sure, that you're thinking too that why do you think that anybody would want to make a promise, especially if they don't know the details of something? And like everybody might say that do you think that maybe promises have been misused quite a few times, that whenever it comes to understanding about agendas, and maybe whenever it does come to about the fact that whenever you're going to be working on something, right? And people want to know too that it's about trust and honesty and respect, right? And so that's why it seems like that each time you do think about that, and you want to know too to deliver on the promises for sure. So we have right here, you got a promise right here, see details, but I'll go ahead and add right here that to deliver the details. So really that so a lot of times it sure seems that way that deliver the details when it comes to knowing your work and knowing your work and the other person. So it sure seems that way, that whenever we do talk about promises a lot of times, and everybody might say that, yeah, well, you can maybe write that down on a sticky note or anything like that, but you always want to know too that don't you think that it would be better to be able to have somebody watch you work or something like that? And like everybody might say that when we do talk about the promises and delivering your promises and doing and performing your promises and all that, and a lot of times it sure seems that way, that deliver the details of the promise. And so so it's like so each time you do think about that, and you're warned toward it that when we do talk about a promise, though, that everybody might say that for sure, right, that for one, that if everybody somebody might even say too that a lot of promises for sure is that when we do talk about promises, though, that it's another way of saying is toward that they were just saying that just to be able to to keep the situation calm or something like that, or something like I'm like, you said that you were going to take care of it tomorrow or something like that, and or something like that, something that you were said that you were that you were going to do or something like. But still, it's like every time you do think about promise, though, that do you think that maybe not everybody really knows what exactly what it means right here? Talk about for promise, right? So that's why it seems like that everybody might say that to where you look at, you see right here at the bottom right here is to kind of give somebody an idea about what happens next? If you start talking about something, and let's just say if you were to set an agenda, a goal or something like that, saying is to, okay, well, what happens next? Well, we don't really know, because, just knowing that, you go ahead, I'm like, so like everybody might say that, especially if something's already been done, right? And so if you're going to be working on something for sure, and want to know too that everybody might say that, if something's already been done, But still, it's like, each time you do think about a promise, though, that how many of us would maybe even say that on a score from like 45 to maybe 50 or something like that, up to 100% or something like that? That do you think that a lot of people have better results with fulfilling a promise and keeping a promise? Maybe that whenever they do hear that something has already been started, something has already been done, and they just need a better understanding about what the next steps are, and what's needed, for the next step, top priorities, and so that's why it seems like that everybody might say that when we do talk about promise, though, that I think that maybe everybody would say that you would see results whenever it comes to knowing if the parents or anybody, if they have a better understanding of what the situation is, and knowing that they're willing to deliver. And so that's why it seems like that each time you do think about promises, though, that somebody's going to say is to where that most commonly that it's going to happen to where that I know what I'm doing based on what I suggested from earlier, but you learn something new this time. And so that's why it seems like that, where that every time you do think about a promise, though, that a lot of parents are going to say that is to where that why do you think that you would want to make a promise for something, knowing that you don't really know what the situation is, you don't really know about this, or you don't really know about that, and that's why it seems like that you were to start out with these so far saying is to where it's already been started. it's already been done for you. You just got to go ahead and work out the next steps. And so it sure seems that way. So if you're going to be working on any sort of promise, right? Do like a little rain check or something like that. But if you were to be working on any sorts of promises, though, that like everybody might say is toward, it's all about you go ahead and ask the questions. And test. Yeah, ask the questions and test the situation. So if I were to put like a bullet mark right there, so every time, if anybody's going to be getting in these sorts of conversation, for sure, that do you think that you would go ahead and start out, to where if you go ahead and make a promise to somebody about something and just knowing the situation, right? And a lot of times it sure seems that way. Listen up. So it's like so each time you do think about that, then you always want to know too, that do you think that anybody does everybody know what promises really mean right here? It's not the same thing as a vacation, and then like everybody might say that just to be able to keep the agenda straight, for sure. That a lot of everybody else would say that I think everybody would maybe agree that if something has already been started, for sure, then there's about maybe a 40% chance that somebody's really going to know the details. There's about 40% chance that everybody is going to say that they're willing to to deliver on those promises if they can really know what the situation is, and maybe if they have they are willing to provide that work to them, especially to the client and all. So each time you do think about that, and the first thing that you think about, of course, is that maybe what did mommy and daddy tell you from the very beginning, and maybe any advice that mommy and daddy can give you. And so that's why it seems like that each time you do think about that, then you always want to know too that you hear about these stories, and the first mommy and daddy you might even tell everybody too that you hear about these stories a lot of times, and people want to know too that I know what I'm doing based on what I really suggested from earlier, but learn something new this time. But how did you do this last time? So it's basically another way of saying this toward a similar situation. So really and one question that I have for you, everybody, is that the similar situation from this time right here. But one question I have for you is that these words that right here talk about from last time and this time. The way this is worded right here, and I can go ahead and put right here, like, do you think that you would, do you think maybe a comma, a quotation mark, or anything like that would need to go there? But anytime you're going to be writing something and talking about something, that you see this right here, talking about last time and talking about this time, and talking about from the previous time or something like that. So you always want to know too that do you think that there's anything going on right here? Like everybody might say that if you're going to be writing a sentence, talking about a story or something like that, and like let's just say that everybody might say that it's very similar from the last time and about this time and all that, and so you're want to know too so each time you do start writing a letter about something or something like that, and everybody might say that you start talking, and then all of a sudden that your mommy and daddy, of course, are going to go ahead and they're going to interrupt you, and they're going to go ahead and start asking questions. Something new this time. And why do you think that you would want to something new, or is it something old? Something new or old. And so so it's like so every time so anybody who's going to get into these conversations a lot of times, they're going to want to know too that oh, okay, what's going on? And so it's like, yeah, so every time you do start a conversation, for sure, it sure seems that way, that the conversation's going to be more than maybe 5 sentences long and something like that, or maybe if mommy and daddy do have a question for you, or that they're confused about something or something like that. But still, how often do you think that you would want to put right here last time? How often do you think that you would want to put, like, yeah, say if that's dash right there, last time, and this time right here? How often do you think that you would want to put that? And like everybody might say that to me, that sounds to me just a little bit like, do you want to kind of look at that as like a direct order or something like that? Or maybe if it's a question, or like everybody might say, is to where it's another way of how to deliver a promise and knowing about the fact that, okay, last time, this time. And so it's like, yeah, so every time you say, or maybe enter, talk about for time right here, it seems like it kind of multiplies. Like that right there is supposed to be like a, I don't know if you want to kind of call it like a equation or a word problem or something like that. Like everybody might say that, to me, I look at that more maybe just a little bit like a word problem. That whenever you do write that, it seems like it starts out with the question, and then maybe it goes to an adjective, or maybe it goes to an exclamation or something like that. I'm like, I really don't know, but like everybody might say that every time you do think about that, the first thing that you were thinking about is that, the first thing that you were thinking about was a question. You were thinking about a question at the beginning, and then it turned into an adjective or a statement or something like that. You're similar to the situation at this time is similar to the situation for the next time. And so everybody might say that, yeah, that, remember this. Remember this next time right here. So every time you do think about that, and you always want to know too that why does it seem like it's going 3 or 4 ways? The way that that's worded, and every time you always want to know too is to where that's really the parent's job, really is to explain that, or like everybody else would say that no, between the odds and the evens or something like that. But really, though, that every time you do think about that, then you always want to know too that why can't things be a little bit more simple than that, than compared to the fact that you go ahead and start writing, writing this and say, yeah, I've done this before. I've done this before. I know what I'm doing, based on what I suggested from earlier. But I learned something new, or if I learned something old, this time, or I learned something new from the last time, where this next time I'll go and try to get it right. So every time you do think about that, and you always want to know too that like there's like a little like a brain teaser or something like that. So like everybody might say that a number of times that you've used that so-called word of saying, and you always want to know too that somebody's going to ask the question as to where that how did you do this last time? And I think that maybe everybody would maybe respond to that and say as to where that, it's a long story. To be quite honest with you, it's a very long story. It's a really long story. And so I think that in a lot of ways that, everybody would maybe say and maybe agree as to where that you would maybe respond to the first question, or maybe the second question right here is to where that, it's it is a really long story. Yeah, it's a really long story. And, maybe you don't really want to talk about it or something like that, but like everybody might say that, whenever you do, you start to talking about something for sure, that, everybody might say that, it's a really long story. And, I don't we all have long stories, but, still, it's like, every time you do think about that, and people want to know too that they're going to ask the questions. But do you think that it's it is a really long story? It's a really really long story. It is a really really long story. it's a really, really long story, and so like everybody might say that, I think the question earlier was, is it true? So yeah, so every time you do think about that, and you always want to know too that why do you think that maybe parents, everybody might say that the parents have it a lot easier than compared to the children. And you're thinking this toward it, yeah, for sure, right? The parents are going to have a lot more simple just because of the fact that they are full, they are fully grown adults, and they're trying to teach their children manners and respect and any helpful tips or something like that. But like everybody might say that yeah, that why do you think that your parents like everybody might say that when we talk about responsibility, right? And every time you do think about that, and you made me think too, is to where that yeah. So if you were to actually divide the agenda into different sections, though, it sure seems that way. That you have a lot harder than compared to the parents. You have it more complicated than compared to the parents. Yeah. Well, the parents have it a little bit more simpler than the work that you gotta do, mainly because of the fact, or for what reason. But still, it's like so every time you do think about that, that you're always want to know too, is to where that speaking about a credit card or something like that. But really that when we do talk about promises, though, that the first thing that you think about for sure is going to be this, to where that yeah, it's already been started. Okay, it's already been done for you. So really, so every time you do think about that, by the way, it seems like this, to where you actually have to put these words in perspective right here. And these words in perspective would be is to where yeah, that yeah, it's already been taken care of for you. It's already been done for you. So now all you have to do is just make a copy of it or something like that. Yeah, all you have to do is just verify your information or something like that. So that's why it seems like that everybody might say that that whenever it comes to promises, though, whenever it comes to agendas, right? That you're always want to know too that that do you think that maybe anybody would maybe even say too that if they see something that's already been done, it's already been started, and chances are they're going to keep their promises, right? But if it hasn't been started, or maybe if you just don't want to bother with the period, then what are the chances that those promises are going to be fulfilled? And like everybody else might say that the chances are that those promises are not going to be fulfilled. Yeah, fulfilled. And so really, well, what does fulfilled pretty much mean? Well, it pretty much means is that yeah, it means yeah, like everybody might say that if you can, it means that yeah, fulfilled right here. Yeah, fulfilled. Fulfilled pretty much means is to where that you yeah, you were able to so yeah, you were able to complete those tasks that were requested from earlier. So really, that each time you think about that, by the way, that you're always thinking too that really, what are good ways of how to get everybody to keep their promises? Just to be able to do what they're asked to do whenever it comes to taking a responsibility for a job, or if it's a credit card or something like that. And like everybody might say that one way for how it can be done for sure is that knowing about it whenever if you're solving any word problems, and maybe if you are trying to work on a task, or setting any sorts of goals or achievements or something like that, that you always want to know too that the best way to start, of course, like everybody would say, the best way to start is knowing is to where that yeah, something has already been done, like a boost right here. So like everybody might say that yeah. So if you're going to be looking at the details of tasks and achievements and all that stuff, and you're 102 to yeah. And I think that, like everybody might say, that the best, maybe one good way that you can go ahead and look at the task and achievements for sure, like everybody might say, that whenever you look at a receipt, after you make a purchase on a credit card or a gift card or somewhere like that, that people might say that I am willing to deliver on those promises if I really can know what exactly is going on and what is needed, and that's why it seems like that, each time you do think about that, and you're always 102, that, yeah, that if you guys spell it with the capital P or something like that, but still, that everybody might say that, maybe you can, you are willing to, fulfill your promises, like everybody might say that, you are willing to fulfill them, maybe if you know exactly, like, yeah, if you are willing to know what happens next, I'm like, yeah, so like, yeah, what happens next, but then also looking at what has already been done for you, and so a lot of parents would say too that that's usually what they do here. By the way, they look at what has already been done and what has already been started before that they start making any promises, and so that's why it seems like that. Yeah, everybody might say that even if you don't. Even though if that's not what you started and that's not really what you start out with and all that, but parents would probably say that the key factor, remember, is just to know, is to word it that yeah, to see the details, right? But still, you actually learn something. I'm like, yeah, you actually learn something either way. When we do talk about promises, though, but when we do talk about a promise, though, that it seems like is to where. That you go ahead, you can remember a lot of things, but really that why do you think that a lot of parents would even say too that I'll be willing to do it tomorrow, I promise. Yeah, we'll go ahead and work on it on Friday, I promise. Or yeah, we'll go ahead and take care of it next week, I promise. And so really that is it really about the fact about is toward the parents, they know what they're doing. They've done this before. They're willing to go ahead and take care of it because they done it last time or something like that. So in case of anybody that may want to know too, that kind of like a trivia question to where that, and I know like everybody might say that, before you deliver your promises for sure, you ought to go ahead and ask the questions. Go ahead and ask the questions, and like everybody might say that, you go ahead and show somebody proof of what you're doing before you go ahead and start fulfilling those promises. But like everybody might say that, if you really want to make a promise to anybody, for sure, people might say that I feel like more comfortable if I can actually watch what you're doing. Show me what you're doing, before you start making any promises. And I know, like everybody might say that, that's usually how it works, right? You go ahead and show somebody what you've been working on before you start making any promises. And maybe that's another reason why that everybody else may say that, that a lot of promises, there's a lot of promises that can be fulfilled. Maybe if you can go and show somebody some of the work that you do, and for how long it took you just to be able to accomplish, and so that's why it seems like that that when we do talk about mommy and daddy, and they might even say too that what are promises called? The ones that have already been fulfilled, and do you have a name for the promises that have already been promised? And well, you can call it you can call it guaranteed promised if you want. Yeah, the guaranteed promised right here. I'm like, yeah, get. Yeah, I know it. I'm just trying to make sure it's in the guaranteed promised, and yeah, guaranteed promise. But I know I'm just trying to key it in there. But in case if anybody's want to know too, that yeah, it's not just a promise, right? But it's supposed to be a guaranteed promise, and guaranteed pretty much means is that you yeah, guaranteed. Guaranteed means that you did it last time, you are willing to do it this time. You maybe even with more effort. Maybe if you do, I'm like, yeah, guaranteed. And I think everybody might even say too that guaranteed pretty much means that that's another way of saying is to where you are in you have insurance. If it's not yeah, a lot of promises. If there's a lot of promises that aren't kept. Yeah, a lot of promises out there in the world that aren't kept for sure. Like everybody might say that. I think that's pretty much what it is, right? Everybody might say if you know of any logos that are or look like that way, but still, it's like yeah, promises guaranteed. And everybody might say that pretty much means that yeah, it's guaranteed. Yeah, it's. With extra protection and also extra insurance, and then yeah, more like yeah. So like everybody might say that yeah, get extra protection guaranteed or something like that. So it's like so every time you do think about that, by the way, it sure seems that way that yeah, that promises guaranteed. Yeah, we've done this before and we can do it again, and I think everybody might even say too that anything that you're going to be working on for sure, that I think a lot of people might even say that, if you did this last time, you have, you got experience with how it works, and for sure, a lot of parents would probably even say too that, yeah, if you hear it from any clients or any children or anybody, and they're going to probably say that, yeah, if you're trying to make a promise, or if you're trying to fulfill a promise of any kind like that, and 102, even if it's already been started, for sure that they're gonna probably want to look back, at your experience, and they're gonna probably tell you that yeah, if you were able to take care of this the last time, guaranteed, for sure, we're gonna ask you to go ahead and take care of it this time, and so I can see everybody, like everybody might say, that I can actually see a lot of that work that's needed. You talk about taking care of a credit card, yeah, bills, credit card bills or something like that. But a lot of parenting, a lot of parents would probably say too that besides word problems, so that you would like to know too that anything yeah, already been done for you for sure. If that's supposed to be anything what you call. If that's supposed to be anything such as what you call a stand, like, yeah, the guaranteed promise whenever it comes to insurance or something like that, or maybe when it comes to extra assistance or something like that. But still, it's like, yeah, so every time you do think about that, then you're always thinking as to whether, yeah, mommy and daddy, taught you well on how to do chores around the house and, how to take care of this and how to take care of that. But it sure seems that way that when we do talk about a promise, though, that you're always 102 this toward it. Yeah, if it's spelt with yeah, is that supposed to be a capital? Is that a capital P right there, or is there a lowercase p? But still. So in case if anybody were to want to know too, that yeah, guaranteed promise, and and you're always 102 that yeah, guaranteed, right? And I would maybe like to know too is to where that everybody might even say that when we do talk about guaranteed right here, and you're warned toward okay, yeah, that whenever you do draw a line right here, maybe 3 lines, that that right there is supposed to be is toward yeah, the P and the R right there. The P is supposed to be is toward yeah, you saw the details earlier. I know what I'm doing, all right? I'm a professional. So I know what I'm doing. Just give me a couple of hours. I'll take care of it, So half the time it sure seems that way that every time you do think about that, by the way, whenever it comes to promises, that you might be thinking about is toward a professional bookkeeper, maybe professional carpenter or something like that, or a professional counselor or something like that. But everybody might say that, do we really even know what it means? Or if just like, yeah, I've heard it before, but, I really don't know. I really don't know if people just don't know what it means or what it stands for, or it's just that they just don't want to do it. And a lot of parents might even say, too, that, if they don't know how to do something for sure, but still, why do you think that a lot of parents would say that, I would like to watch, I want to go ahead and watch you work so I can get a better, better understanding of what needs to be done. And so yeah, everybody might say that it starts out maybe with a sentence and it goes to a picture and then maybe it comes to the long story or something like that. But that kind of gets you an idea about the fact that whenever we do talk about promises, by the way, that a lot of promises that you use that word every day, by the way. You use that word almost all the time, promises, right? But still, do we really even know what it means? And like everybody might say originally whenever you first wrote the word promise right here, that originally it may have represented to where I remember. And I think everybody here would maybe agree that whenever you first used the word promise, that was another way of saying this to where I remember. Yeah, I remember very well. But did it really mean as to where that you were going to stay on top of task? Did it really mean that you were going to stay on top of those objectives to where to get the work done? And but on the other hand, that we probably think as to where in case if we all know is to where what does a promise really mean right here is to where you did this last time, so I would like for you to go ahead and do it again. And I think everybody might say that they would probably would even agree that if you've done this before, we want you to keep your promise and do it again. And so really that every time you do think about that, and you're always want to know too that if you're going to make a promise to somebody to take care of something for sure, that you're thinking as toward for sure. Did they really say they're going to go and keep the promise just because that they have an idea of what happens next or something like that? I have an idea of what I want to do, and most of the time that if it's not going to be that you got it started or whichever, but I have an idea. I have a good idea, for what I have a good idea for what to do next. And so that's why it seems that way toward it. So each time you do hear promise, by the way, that you may want to know too that you go ahead and hear the word promise, and for sure, do you think that maybe everybody might say that you go ahead and talk and work out the arrangements for an hour before you go ahead and start working on any promises, right? So in case of anybody might say that, maybe work on them for a week or maybe a month or something like that, but still, that I think a lot of people would maybe even agree that most promises are going to be fulfilled, mainly because if they already see what's already been done. And if they already see, it's already been done for you. If they can look at all the progress that's already been done, for sure, they'll be able to keep the promise for what happens next, right? But if they look back and see all the work that hasn't been done, and maybe they see all these problems that come up and everything, what are the chances that they are going to go ahead and fulfill that promise? And they'll probably say is toward well, for sure, if they don't want to do it, and then you can go ahead and say is toward that's right. Well, the thing that you can do for sure is to say, I did this last time, and I can go and do it again. say something like that. But yeah, remember this next time. So a promise, yeah, a promise is another way, I guess, like everybody might say that you may thought that maybe it really meant is toward it. Remember this next time, and but still, it's like each time you do think about that, and you always want to know too that does really everybody really even know what promise even means? And they might even say that there was one time a long time ago, or maybe it did. It meant is toward it. Do you remember at all? What you were working on, or something like that. But a lot of times it's like, yeah, it's a waiting to be done or something like that. But I just really think a lot of parents would say that is toward it. Yeah, I think everybody would agree that if something's already been done, for sure, if they have a real clear understanding of what needs to be done next and what's needed, for sure, that there'll be, to explain the details, for sure. That next person, that other person is going to be willing to do that as long as they know, if they know what they're doing, if they know how to do it, how to take care of the situation, for sure. They are willing to fulfill that promise. But the way I think about it is toward it, when we do talk about promises, though, that a lot of parents would say is toward it, yeah, when we do talk about promises, though, we are talking about is that, you're willing to, keep your word on what you said you were going to do and all that, but really, why do you think it starts with the credit card? And why do you think it starts with the conversation? But a lot of parents are going to say is toward it, yeah, well, for sure, right, that they want to get a clearer and better understanding of what happens next. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.